Hey guys, it's been a while since my last video, just because, I said it before on one of my other videos, but I really don't want to just be making them just to make them and like reiterate the exact same points that I have every single time. I only really want to make videos when I have like a realization or something new that I understand in my life. So that's kind of why I've been absent for a little bit. And I'm not sure what it is because it is pretty late, but I just like really had the feeling and like the drive to make a video today. Just I think because of the few things that I have learned since my last video. Um, what I say isn't really in any particular order. It's kind of just, I have a few things written down on what I want to talk about, but nothing's really in a particular order. It's kind of just like the things that I've thought about recently and things that I've learned and how I've grown as an individual. So what's one thing that I really learned, like literally today, was that regardless of what it is that you're trying to do, regardless, it could be anything, whether it's starting a business, like even something small, showing something to your friends, or like making a piece, writing an essay, anything like that. Something that I really learned, especially today, is to just start somewhere. It doesn't matter like how bad it is at first. I saw a video a few months ago. It was from ASAP Rocky, and he said that any creation, any masterpiece is 10% substance and 90% editing. And it's impossible to edit something that doesn't exist. And, I think it could be really difficult to kind of switch your mentality from that saying, oh, I need to plan everything. Oh, I need to make sure that everything's right. I need to guarantee that this is going to work, to a mindset of saying, I just have faith in God that it is actually going to work out. And basically just starting from there. And that's something that I really learned recently. In my art and everything, I feel like there's so many projects, so many plans that I have that you spend so long, or that I've spent so long just thinking about doing it, trying to plan everything up before I start, but that's really not the way to do things. You can't, like an analogy that I came up with myself earlier today was that if you're trying to get an 100 on a test, you can't be so stuck on the idea of getting an 100 that you spend all the time learning how to study instead of actually studying for that test. That's kind of the mentality that I have about this now. Basically just start somewhere and then evolve and learn and grow from there. Because more important than reaching the destination that you want to achieve is learning how to reach any destination that you want to achieve. So I think it's important that regardless of what it is, you just start somewhere and then you just go from there. You don't need a perfect start to have a perfect finish. Another thing that I really gotten into recently was just the entire concept of authenticity as a whole, because especially in today's society, I've seen it all the time, whether it's in school, whether it's like literally anywhere, online, people that you see, anything, people are so inauthentic with each other nowadays, and I feel like it's just detrimental as a whole. And it's something that, it's something that I've also fallen into a lot, like kind of being scared and anxious to be vulnerable with people, to tell them like straight up how you're feeling and what you're going through. And then also just being open enough and almost self-centered enough that you would say exactly what you're thinking, even regardless of how the other person is going to respond or feel to it sometimes. And I feel like that's such a quality that's disregarded and looked down upon, kind of being self-centered in that way. But I think it's an important thing to have. Like, imagine what the world would be if everyone was completely authentic with each other, if everyone said exactly how they're thinking at all times. And I think that in the end, you're just going to end up being happier than you are if you're being inauthentic, regardless of whether you have more when you're inauthentic than when you are authentic. So I think it's really important to be true to yourself. And then that also means that you have to recognize that the lies that you are telling to yourself, the lies that you said so much to other people that you're starting to believe them yourself. I think it's important to really look at yourself and look at the world in an objective sense and recognize, when you're faulting somewhere or how you're really feeling at something and express that. And, if it's with yourself, if you notice something, then try to change that about yourself. Because you could be comfortable lying to yourself, but are you going to be happy? That's kind of what I've thought about a lot recently. I spent so long not necessarily lying to people, but not really showing people around me who I am authentically. And I feel like that's detrimental to me in so many ways, just to the point that, I can't always say what I'm thinking, or I can't always express how I'm feeling, because I'm afraid that that's going to go against the vision that other people have of me, the idea that other people have of me. But I think it's really important to almost be self-centered in that way. And yes, it's important to be kind with people, but it's also important to speak your truth, to speak how you're really feeling. And I feel like it always seems like there's one or the other. You could either be authentic with yourself, be authentic with other people, or be kind and nice to other people. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's possible to do both. It's really just in the way that you're framing it. It's like, I saw this on a YouTube video a few months ago. They gave an example where they said, if someone gives you, I'll just use video games for an example. If someone gives you a video game and it's not for the right console, let's say you have a PlayStation and then they give you a console for it, or a game for an Xbox. On one hand, you could be thinking, wow, this gift is useless. Yeah, I appreciate it, but I can't really use it. And then on one hand, you could express that thought to that person. But on the other hand, you could say something like, I really appreciate the thought that went into it, to getting this for me. It isn't the right console, so I can't really play it, but I do appreciate the thought that went into it. And see, it's possible to say how you're really thinking while still being kind and taking other people's thoughts into consideration. So I think that it's important to have a really good balance between the two. Because obviously you can't talk to your best friend the same way you talk to your grandmother. You do have to still have that frame of reference in terms of who you're talking to. But I feel like just as a whole, we could all serve to be more authentic and more honest and more open with each other while still being just nice to each other in general. And that would kind of just lead to, a lot of conflicts that you see, especially that I see between different friend groups, different groups of people. I feel like a lot of those conflicts would be ended really easily if people were just completely authentic. Because, I'm not going to say names or anything, but especially in my school, I feel like there's so many groups of people that I've seen personally that, they're really inauthentic with each other. And I'm not trying to call anyone out, because not even I'm thinking of anyone in particular right now. It's just a trend that I've seen, is that people, they're not authentic. They'll say something in front of a person and then the exact opposite thing behind their back. But who's that really serving? Is it better to have that mask behind everyone that you're talking to and always slightly be on edge whenever you're around people? Or is it better to be your completely authentic self? And yeah, sure, maybe you won't have as many friends. Maybe your connections won't be as varied, but the connections would be deeper, they'd be stronger, because people that that really appreciate you for who you are, and that you really appreciate them for who they are, and it kind of goes from there. That's something that I've really been looking into recently. Something really big that I've also learned, it's something that I learned it's something that I really got into about a year ago, but it's something that I'm still learning and something that I'm still like evolving with and something that I'm still growing with is forgiving others. You know, it's really just, it's as simple as the saying goes. Like the negativity, if someone does something wrong to you, the negativity of what they did, it only stays with you as long as you linger onto it. You can't move to the present, you can't move to the future if you're always stuck in the past. So something that I've really learned is, you know, you have to allow yourself, you have to give yourself the gift of forgiving others and just moving on. And this isn't to say that, you know, if someone does something like super wrong to you, like if they wrong you in a major way, that you just act like it never happened and then you're just cool with them. I think it's important to have set boundaries. And then when like someone crosses those boundaries, like they're done, that's it. But I think it's also important that you need to look at it in a sense that, in an objective sense, in a way that, okay, they did me wrong. I deserve better than to linger on to the negativity of what they did. And then deciding to forgive them, but then also still not associate with them from that point on. I think that if more people forgave others, that just as a whole, we'd be in a better place. Because, you know, something that especially I've dealt with in the past is that, you know, if someone did something wrong to me, then I linger on to that negativity. Anytime I see them doing something, it's like, even if they do something good, something positive, you're always like kind of finding a reason to like hate on it, finding a way to make it negative, finding a way to make it like a bad thing, and lingering onto that negativity instead of, you know, kind of seeing everything for what it is. So I think that as a whole, we should really just be forgiving of what other people are doing. The video is already like 12 minutes and 10 seconds long, so I don't want to be here for too long, just because, like I said, it is pretty late at night. It's like basically 11:30 p.m. But something else that I wanted to talk about was something that I learned. I was reading a book earlier. It's Principles by Ray Dalio. And something that I learned was that, you know, so many times, especially in my artwork, but I feel like it could apply to other people in other facets of life, you can feel that there's an issue. You could feel that there's a problem. Like, I'll just use the analogy of my own artwork. You could feel that the piece isn't right. You could feel that it's not perfect. But then instead of trying to figure out why, I understand that there's a point in time where it's okay, you're just like in your feelings, you're in your emotions about something. But I feel like so much of the time we linger onto that feeling rather than actually doing what's in our power to solve that. And I don't think that's the most productive way to live life, you know. I think it's important to feel how you're feeling. It's important to process your emotions, to talk to people about what you're going through, and to really spend time in that emotion, regardless of what it is. But especially if it's something negative, I think it's important that while you're feeling that, you also recognize, okay, this is a problem. I think it's important to recognize, one, what the problem actually is. Two, then design a plan in order to solve that problem. And then three, execute on the actual plan. It sounds like really methodical and like systematic, but I think it's really important that people, they don't just linger on the problems that they have. Because, I mean, the truth of the matter is just that not everything is going to be equal. Not everything is going to be in your favor all the time. But it's really important to get past that and to grow from that. And I don't think it's possible to evolve from that point in time unless you're actually trying to do so. You know, and I really can't stress this enough. I feel like I'm not articulating my point well enough, but I still think it's important to keep your emotions and keep your feelings and really like spend time in them. You know, it's okay to be mad, sad, angry, you know, upset about something that happens. And I think that's really important because, you know, you can't just look at everything completely objectively. Oh, okay, this is a problem, how do I fix it? This is a problem, how do I fix it? It's very like, mechanical way of living life, and I don't think that will show you everything that life has to offer. But I think it's really important to process and spend time in your emotions, but don't linger on them for the rest of your life. Don't keep them for the rest of your life. Because if you're, like I said earlier, if you're always stuck in the past, how can you move on to the future? It's important to, so I think that as a whole, if you know that there's a problem, it's important to really identify what it is and then try to get past what that problem in particular is. Yeah. So I did bring it back. I do have a Bible verse prepared because, something that's also been going on a lot recently was that just my faith in God has been growing like a lot more. And then he's been showing himself more and more to me, and like his goodness and his grace. And, so many positive things, so many things that I've been waiting like a long time for have started happening in my life, which I really appreciate. So I just have to say thank God. But I do actually have a Bible verse prepared that I kind of just want to leave as a final note. It's taken from 3 John chapter 1, verse 2. And it says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers." So I pray that anyone watching this, even anyone not watching this, I hope that they're all able to prosper just as their soul prospers. And I pray that they all be in good health. Thanks.